There we go. And welcome to the Neville Goddard Coffee Club. Today we've got a very special message on revision, answering your questions. And as usual, we invite you to send us emails and stuff at freeneville.com. So let's dive in. The reader says, last Friday, a good friend of mine who works at my company told me his contract would not be renewed and that he would effectively no longer have his job. This was a huge shock to me and my colleagues, as my friend is very good at his job, and we were all under the impression that his contract would be renewed. No question about it. At first, I started to get quite angry and upset at the news, but then I remembered Neville's advice to revise. So that night on the train I took on the way back from work, and the next day at home, I set aside 15 minutes to close my eyes, and with my eyes closed, I revised the scene to where my friend had emailed me of his bad news. Instead, I tried to place myself in my chair at my office and imagine that instead of an email from my friend, I received an email from his manager addressed to the entire office, which confirmed that his contract had been renewed, and that he in fact had secured a permanent position. I then stood up from my chair, walked to his desk, and said, "Congrats on the new role, very well deserved." Shook his hand, he nodded politely, and thanked me. Now, the next day, he asked to catch up for lunch, which we did, and invariably the topic of his dismissal came up. Now, this is where it gets really good. I felt really conflicted. On one hand, I had imagined a revised scene that implied the good news. So how could we be discussing his dismissal? But here we are talking about the bad news. I just couldn't ignore it, or I could choose not to answer his questions. I had to, on one hand, acknowledge the bad news. So my question is, how do we acknowledge reality, physical reality, until our wish is manifested? Should I do another Neville session to switch my mind back to the assumption that he is actually promoted and not let it go? Or should I have diverted my conversation, which may have seemed insensitive to him? I'm a little confused and would appreciate your help. Okay, so here's the deal. Revision, the primary power of revision, remember Neville has 3 tools in the Neville Goddard toolbox. There's revision, which has to do with the past. There's I remember when, that can get you out of any stuck state in the present, and the future techniques, which involve congratulatory conversations, so on and so forth. So Neville takes care of all 3 time frames where almost nobody else has a clue they even all exist. Now, with revision, what we're doing is we're taking care of cycles, because we've all had, now think about this. This morning, I brushed my teeth. I got out the old electric toothbrush, right? The day before, in the morning, guess what I did? I brushed my teeth. But, between meals, I brush my teeth. So morning, between meals, and bedtime, I brush my teeth. A little electric toothbrush, right? So that's a habit. That's a cycle that keeps recurring in my life. Now, this is really important because when we think about revision, sometimes what happens is people experience something and then they keep experiencing it, and they keep experiencing it, and they keep experiencing it because that's what they begin to expect. And so what revision does is we go back and rewrite the past. And when we rewrite the past, that doesn't necessarily change what happened in the past. What it does is it eliminates the high probability that that cycle is going to repeat in your present and future. So literally, I mean, there's some neat ways you can apply this. By the way, if you don't brush your teeth 3 times a day, you can go back and revise yesterday, so you did. Just imagine, what's it like to brush your teeth in the morning, after the meal, at bedtime? That's pretty cool. What if I did it the day before? What was I like? Where was I at? Okay, maybe I need a little portable electric toothbrush to stick in my pocket too, right? So if you go back and you revise, having brushed your teeth for many, 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 many days, instead of, you know what, I haven't brushed my teeth in months. I wonder why they're falling out. Okay? You get it? You go back and you recreate the past to your ideal so that wave doesn't, so the negative wave doesn't carry into your present and into your future. You go into the past and you build positive ways. You refashion what happened so that that wave, so that new wave carries into the future. You see, you might not get your friend's job back. Okay, just plain and simple. I know we're going to get hate mail, but Neville says you can do anything. Read Neville. Don't just quote a little passage. Actually study the guy. Okay, you may not get the guy's job back. It may show back up. It may not. But the key power of revision is to end the cycle, to stop the cycle from repeating. Because the next time the guy gets a contract for another company, or a contract with your current company, you don't want him going, well, I hope it doesn't get canceled like the last one. I hope it doesn't get canceled like the last one. And then, if that happens, then it'll probably get canceled because it'll be lost in his head and creating the field for that to happen. So revision is all about creating the field that you want to advance into the future. It's about eliminating cycles from the past. And again, you can apply this anywhere. I've worked with people on this with marriage, with money. Again, go back and revise your marriage decisions if that hasn't worked out real hot for you. Go back and revise your money decisions if that hasn't worked out real hot for you. By the way, doing that won't, I was talking to a guy one day. He says, I've been married 5 times. And I'm really concerned because I want to marry this woman I'm currently with, but I'm worried I'm going to get divorced because I've got a heck of a track record. So I told him, says, you go back and you imagine that you stayed married to wife number 1. You go back and you imagine you were married to wife number 2 and you stayed married. You go back and you imagine being married to wife number 3 and you stayed married. And he says, well, doesn't that all contradict each other and the reality and that kind of stuff? And the key is we're not looking for it to make sense. What we're looking for is you go back and you notice in the marriage, you know what, that's where it started to fall apart. And I'm going to change that. That's where that one started to fall apart. I'm going to change that. And that's where that one started to fall apart. And I'm going to change that. And if you do that, when you bump into the point in the current relationship where it starts to fall, whoa, wait a second, that's where it would have fallen apart. But it ain't this time. Because I noticed something differently. Because I'm different this time. And that's the key. Change what happened in the past so that the cycles don't repeat in the present. And so they don't extend into the future. Your buddy may or may not get his job back. That's fine. But the thing is, the gift of love is stopping that cycle from repeating. And if you stop that cycle from repeating, odds are he's going to go into the next opportunity a heck of a lot more confident. And it might even find that the next place, or the next circumstance he works in is the more ideal one. Maybe he was imagining a better ideal without even telling you. Maybe he was thinking, there's something better that I want to do in the world. Some people feel a calling. That's how I got here. I felt a calling. And then all these tragedies happened to get me here. And that's all good. Because again, I've gone back and revised the tragedy part out of it and engaged the miracle part of it all. So I hope that all makes good sense. So if you're on the Free Neville site, there's some links. There should be some links below taking you to some other articles on revision. Go check it out. Have some fun. If you want, we've got some awesome. We've got over 600 free articles and videos on there. Have fun. Watch them. If you want to dive in deep and fast, we've got the 90-day coaching program and the Feel Real Power Pack and the Prosperity Pack. Get those. Have fun. And just remember who and what you are. When you remember to notice what you are, remember, Neville says that we are one with God. What we are is consciousness. And when you get that you're not the meat suit, that you're this thing called consciousness, consciousness animates and leads the meat suit and the rest of the universe, that's when life gets good. So it's not about a law about the universe. It's about the truth about you. That's why we're here. My name is Mr. 2020. Thank you for visiting freeneville.com. Make sure you subscribe to our videos, click some links, leave some comments, get some goodies, change your life, email us and let us know. Have a great day. See ya. Here we go.